All right, I think we are ready to get started here. So welcome everybody. My name is Çetinkaya-Rundel and I'm a professor at Duke University, and we are trying something new starting today. And we're calling this Coding Out Loud. So the premise is that I will be pair programming with a buddy, and I'm lucky enough to have one of my students with me today, Evan Dragich. And Evan, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Evan. I'm a junior at Duke studying psychology and statistics. And yeah, I'm super excited for this opportunity and to see what we can create today.
Yeah, so we've been doing data visualization all semester. So I think today we're going to
hmm
take another opportunity to do more data visualization together. And the idea is that with each of these episodes, we're going to have a kind of set of tasks prepared for us, although we haven't really completely prepared for these tasks. So part of this is us kind of coming up with ideas on the fly, but we'll try to keep a little bit of a structure and then provide each of you and our markdown file that you can code along with us along the way, or grab it at the end and kind of go through and watch at your own pace if you like, or just work on it on your own. So let's start with the first. So our first episode, we're going to work with data from Doctor Who. And for those of you who may not be familiar with where this data actually comes to us from, it's a project called Tidy Tuesday, which is a fantastic project. They release a new data set each week. So this was last week's data set, so it gave us a little bit of a time to think about what we're going to do until we got started. So if you want to follow along, I would recommend going to this short link, bit.ly/coding-out-loud, and that will land you on this landing page for the Coding Out Loud project. And you can do a few things here. If you would like to follow along on RStudio Cloud, as in you just open an RStudio session in your browser with all the packages you might need installed for you, go ahead and click on the first link here. It will ask you to authenticate if you go with that route, or if you would like to do things locally on your computer, you can go ahead and find the source code on GitHub. So if you click on the second link, it will land you over here, and you can start with the R Markdown file if you like. I am going to do the computing in RStudio Cloud here, and I've basically grabbed that R Markdown file that I have prepared for us to get started. And let's go ahead and, I guess, get started. So
Yeah.
what shall we do first? So the first task we were thinking about was looking at this news item that was about the fall of Doctor Who or the ratings.
Yeah.
And this was the visualization they provided. So we were thinking we might want to recreate this. How might we get started with this?
Hmm. Let's see. What sort of data do we have too? That was the first thing I would kind of look at, since it looks like we have multiple data sets.
Right, that's great. So let's take a look at these data sets. So these are the two data sets we're going to work with. So I am going to go ahead and load the packages I need. And then let's close this up. I am going to set some chunk options, and let's go ahead and load our data sets. So we have two data sets. One of them is called episodes. Let me go ahead. I generally like to open those up in the data viewer. And in this data set, we have things like the season number, the date it aired, which
hmm
looked like we had dates, years, right? And then
Nice.
the viewers. So these are in millions, I believe, the viewers. So if you look in the data folder, I have linked to the data dictionary from here. So we may want to have that open in another tab as well. Go ahead and do that. So in the episodes file, so we have UK viewership in millions, and we have the season number and the date. So I feel like this might be the file we're going to work with.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
All right. So And I have included that visualization here in our Markdown document as well, so we can easily refer to it. But let's go ahead and insert a code chunk. I am using the visual editor for our Markdown because I enjoy the look of it. Usually when I add a code chunk, I like giving it a label, maybe viewership. Okay, so we have the episodes data. What might we want to do with this data?
The first thing I notice, yeah, is that we're going to need some sort of year, whereas we had that air date in the data set. So
Right.
we would have
So,
to mutate. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yes,
let's
we're
go
going to need to
ahead and
mutate.
mutate and figure out the year here from the first aired. So
Yeah.
let's mutate and get a year in there. So that's going to be some function that we, what was it, first air date? Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
First aired.
First air.
And we might use that year function from the lubridate package to do this, but I
Mhm.
don't think I've loaded the lubridate package. So let's go ahead and do that too. Right. And then whenever I do this, in order to see what we actually have, I like doing relocate, and then we might relocate the year and the first aired to the beginning of the data frame so that we take a look to see if those look right. And
Mhm.
I'm going to do one more thing. I would like to see my chunk outputs in the console, just so we can print those out as a tibble here. So that looks right. We have
Yeah.
years and we have seasons. And then this visualization is looking at series averages. So how would we
Mhm.
calculate the
Yeah.
averages per year?
We're going to need to do a summarize, but I think before that, what's really annoying is that 2012 and 2013 get lumped into the same entry on
Uh,
the chart.
right. So
So
let's
I
take a
think,
look at what might be going on here. We might take a look to see um, the distinct years and season numbers.
mhm.
Pretty long. So how about we do pipe this into a view. So open it up here. So season 1 is in 2005 to, oh, so this span, they span a little bit,
Interesting.
right? So we need to figure out, it maybe like starts in one year and goes into the other. So we need to figure out, I guess the visualization seems to be by year. So maybe we keep things by year.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is that the visualization is based off of, because what was the visualization saying? 2012 and 2013. So season 7 seems to have spanned 3 years. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and then some of these are NAs. We're probably, if there's not a season number, we're probably not going to use them. What might be happening there? Let's try to figure out what these NAs are to get rid of them.
Yeah. Let's see.
We have some things that are called specials that are not in
Specials.
any season. So maybe we want to just get rid of these specials first. How about we filter those out?
That sounds good.
Okay, this is a little easier to look at. And
Okay.
now that we
Now,
have
yeah.
removed them, things are looking good except this one season that's spanning across the two. So maybe we just recode that to be just those two numbers.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The way I would do that, yeah. So if we just had mutate year was year first aired, and then also mutate would be year equals if else year
Right.
um, in 2012 or 2013. Then then we would call it something else. 2012,
Yeah.
13. Yeah, so
That's
here
good. So
in
2012 or
character vector.
2013. Maybe we do this 2012, 13 like they did it there. And
Yes.
otherwise we'll say it can just be the year.
Yeah, just keep what it
Does that
was.
sound good?
Perfect. Yeah,
Okay,
let's
so
see it.
let's see what this does.
Oh.
False must be a character vector. So what's going on here is that we have made this a character, but the year itself was numeric to begin with. So how about we
Mhm.
force this to be a character as well? I think it should stop
That should
complaining.
solve it. Perfect.
Okay,
That's looking really
so
good. Yeah.
now we have season numbers and years, and now I think we can get rid of these kind of debugging code that we had here, and we're going to do the summarization. But before we summarize, we should do a group by, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
so yeah,
group
group by
by.
that new year variable.
And then
And then we
summarize.
yeah, mean rating or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah, what was
mean
that
rating would
called?
be
UK viewers.
UK viewers, yes.
Oh, you were trying to tell me, give your
Oh yeah.
variable a name, Mina, and you are right. Okay. Good. And
Awesome.
2021 is an NA, but we don't need it, right? We don't need
Yeah.
2021 to recreate this. So how about we filter that out too? Okay, we have the data that we're going to plot. It is not like exactly the same data. Maybe it is. These are
Mhm.
rounded to 1 digit. How about we round these to 1 digit?
Yeah, perfect.
Round. Let's try again. In the words of my former boss, close enough for science? It seems close enough. Let's try to make the plot. I mean, it's not exactly the same data, maybe 6. Right, we have a couple data points that diverge, like for at the very end, but otherwise they seem close enough. So let's go ahead and make this plot.
Yeah.
How do we want to go about that?
Awesome. So the first thing, yeah, starting with our like base ggplot call. We've piped in our data, so we're not going to need to specify that. So we can just start with the
Right.
mapping argument. And it looks like we're going to have on our x-axis would be that mean UK viewers variable we just created, and then on the y is going to be year.
Year. Okay.
And then we can
Need
go
a
ahead
geom.
and yeah, so we
What
can add
geom should we
plus.
use?
How about geom call for a geom
Geom
column?
call.
Since
Right.
the default there is to use the identity rather than to do a transformation like with bar.
Yes. And what do we have here?
Awesome.
Something looking similar.
It's reverse.
But it's reverse. So let's reverse things. So we can say for cats, we can do reverse this year factor for me. There we go.
Awesome. That looks great.
Yeah. So now what can we do? My favorite theme
Yeah.
will help us a long way
Of course.
here. A few other things maybe we might want to do. Do you want to try to grab this blue
Yeah.
somehow?
Totally.
Let's
Yeah.
try that. So I like using this digital color meter. All right, help me remember this hex code. 0081BB.
Yes. Zero. Perfect.
That mistake again. We should
my
use,
favorite error to make. Fill.
Let's use fill. Okay, let's use fill. Okay.
Awesome.
So we're getting there. I would say
While
that we
we're
have most of the things, but what else do we need here?
we're also going to need a geom text since they have those
Right.
labels with year at the end.
Yes. So let's do that. Geom text. Um, so we have our X and Y coordinates that are already
Hmm.
going to get inherited from the ggplot call, but we need a label, and that label should be what?
So not quite exactly the year column of our data frame because we need that and then the M. So we could do a paste 0 year M.
Right. Not year,
I mean,
mean
mean
UK
UK
viewers,
viewers.
right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, the other
Yeah.
variable. Yeah.
So let's do that. The mean UK viewers and then M. Okay.
Awesome.
Probably want to move them over a little bit. So I think that's nudge X.
Uh,
And it's
I would have used
maybe like,
adjust, but that works too.
oh, okay, let's try that. Adjust.
Adjust equals 1 to
Okay, what
pull
do we
them to the
want?
end.
1. Maybe the other way. Is it 0?
Wait, is it?
There we go,
Oh,
0.
there we go. Perfect.
Okay, so we move them over. They look bolded. I think there's a way to bold
Yes.
this.
I think we need the
A way
GG
I can
text
never remember.
package.
I don't think so. Hold on. Let's
Okay.
see. Yeah. So
Oh,
you
wow.
are right that if we want to bold like things like the title and stuff, I think we're gonna need the GG text package. But for just the text itself, I think we can use this font
Yeah.
face.
I did not know you could do that in base ggplot. Wow.
There you go. Okay.
Look at that.
Um,
Cool.
we're missing a plus, so we gain dark gray background back. Okay. All right. What else might we want to do? I feel like these are nudged a little bit still, right? There's still a little bit of
Oh,
like
yeah, you're right.
space between. There we go. But when
Awesome.
I nudge them, we're ending up with that pesky thing that happens where you see how the 7.9M gets like clipped at the end.
Oh,
So
yeah, just a little bit.
I think we can do chord Cartesian
Yes.
clip off to save us from that. There we go. We gained the tail of
Perfect.
the M.
Yeah.
All right. What else would you like to add to this?
The other big thing I see is that on the original plot, the years are like flush with the bars as well on the right side, whereas
Mm,
we have theme minimal, but then it still leaves that gap where like the ticks and the grid lines would be. So I'm
yeah.
not sure if the yeah,
So
I'm not
let's
sure if the
see.
best way
So
to do
first of
that.
all, let's get rid of these grid lines. Okay. We can do panel grid element blank. So we're building up onto the theme minimal and get rid of these grid lines because they don't have it on the original graph.
Yeah.
So one way to get these flush, well, okay,
I
you feel like
mean,
cheating?
oh,
Um,
I got a question.
oh, we have a comment. The numbers don't match exactly. You're right, Lisa. The numbers do not match exactly, and we are not sure why. So we decided to move on. um, Particularly because actually, I'm not necessarily sure that the data that was used for that particular article was exactly the data we have.
Yeah, I
Um,
was impressed it even aligned this much. Yeah. Um,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yes. Um, all right. So I have an idea for getting those numbers there, but we're
Okay.
going to cheat a little bit. Maybe there's a better way. But if
Is
you feel
it
like
theme
cheating,
void and calling them a geom text?
right, something like that. I was
Okay.
thinking, can
Yeah.
we actually do something like, yeah, how about we do this theme void,
Just get rid of
get rid
everything and
of
then put them
all
in
of the
ourselves.
labeling, and then put them in our cells. We already know how to do geom text, so let's copy that. And then we're going to do the years, right? So the label will be year
Yes.
this time. And then let's get rid of these things for now. Okay,
Awesome.
that's not at the right place. They went to their x coordinates are being inherited. So how about we do x is 0? Another there. Can do a bit more. Maybe that HS trick you had.
Perfect.
Okay, and now how about we give ourselves some room for that? Add an x lim from maybe -1 to...
Yeah.
That
Zoom out a
was
bit. Perfect.
an unnecessary amount. 8.5, maybe 0.5. And maybe we do this like a little bit of room. That is starting to look a lot more like it. Yeah,
that's really good.
Okay, shall we try the title?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Let's try the title. So, the title itself is easy enough, right? What is it? Doctor Who TV ratings. And then what was it? Series average. But that is not how it looks here. So we have this bolding situation happening. How do you want to handle that?
I would do that with the GG text package. That would let us specify HTML elements within like our title and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So let's take a look at that. I agree with you. I think that's the way to go. GG text. So let's go to the web page for it. I'll zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to do my favorite cheat of just like looking. Is there any? Okay, some text in bold. So it looks like we can put markdown code in it. And then markdown elements. Yeah. Right. So for example, it looks like we can add, like here they gave the example of plot caption, but we should be able to do that with plot title. And then we're just going to use this element markdown. So a few pieces to carry over. First, we want the GG text package. Okay. And then we want to add our markdown text. And then we want to say plot title is element markdown.
Awesome.
There we go.
There we go. Great.
Yeah. Let's tidy things up a little bit. So I like having theme things at the end generally.
Yeah.
And then maybe this chord Cartesian towards the end as well. We might want to add a caption just to be good, right? And say, recreated plot from independent.ie. Not all values match.
Yep.
Okay.
We could make the bars less wide too, is the other kind of big thing that jumps out at me. Maybe like width equals 0.75 for those.
So here, like this.
Sure, let's see what that does.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we have mostly gotten here. And and there's also the lines. Do you want to tackle the lines?
Yes. Would the best way just be geom hline?
could try that. Let's try it. So geom h line, and then y-intercept would be,
Like,
is it
I don't
like
know,
10 or something? I
10?
don't know. Okay, that not
Okay.
10.
Like
11,
13?
13 is too
Ah,
much.
um,
12.5.
that should, yeah, perfectly right in
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, that did it. Okay. um, all right, so we got one there. I'd say this is, fine.
Yeah.
We got pretty close to what we wanted to get to. Some of our values are off, but I think that's looking good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks. Now, the next thing I was thinking we might do is we might want to improve upon this a little bit. Because, I mean, we recreated this, but this news story is about the fall of viewership.
Hmm.
And to me, my eye goes from bottom to up. And it doesn't look like the fall of viewership.
Yeah.
It looks like the rise of viewership, which is
That's a really good point.
quite, and another thing is we have some years, but they're on the y-axis. And I feel like with a timeline, we may want to have them on the x-axis. So what sort of a plot, what sort of a geom could be better to indicate the fall of viewership?
Yeah, I think we could do a geom line, and because this is a
Mm-hmm.
case where that would be really appropriate because we do have that temporal data. So usually if you had
Yeah,
categories, you wouldn't want to imply that there's, slopes or differences, but in this case that's exactly what we
right,
want to do is map that trend. So,
right, exactly. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll enter a new R code chunk. And this is, what did we call the first one? The first one we called Sears viewership. So how about we call this one series viewership improved, maybe?
yeah.
And so we have this data set that we created, right? That we
Hmm.
basically want to plot in another way. And earlier, we just created this data set and then piped it into ggplot. But I want to reuse this data set. So what I want to do is I am going to break up this pipeline. Um, and create a new data frame for this data set that we use to plot, right? So for this, that has the information we want to plot. And then this data frame can be used to make the first plot, and it can be used to make the second plot as well.
Awesome.
So what do we want on the x-axis then this time?
Yeah, now we're going to have year, and
Now we want to have
we will,
year.
and then on the y you would have the what do we call that? This average UK viewership?
Oh
Mean
yeah,
UK
mean
viewers,
UK
yes.
viewers.
Awesome.
And then we said geom line, right?
Yes. That should be a good starting point.
Uh, the
Hmm.
each group consists of only one observation. Do you need to adjust the group aesthetic? Yes. I want to say
Yes.
connect all the dots together. So group equals 1. There we go.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So now, yes, overall we are seeing this decreasing trend, except 2018
Yeah.
was very popular.
That's like what happened in
Um,
2018?
I don't know. Well, maybe in the next bit we'll be able to figure out, because we'll take a look at the doctors that change. So I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan, but I did look things up a little bit. And doctors change from across certain seasons. Not every season, but some seasons. So let's make this theme minimal. And how about we bring that blue color back in?
Yeah.
I like it when these lines are a bit thicker. Okay, now we are seeing the trend a little bit better, I would say.
Hmm.
We can borrow some stuff from above, right? Like
Uh,
this labels, we can totally borrow.
would you
Um,
want to add a geom point years too, just to emphasize that even though there is a trend, it's like discrete points?
yeah, I think that's a really good idea. So let's do that. Let me go ahead and borrow this theme element as well so we can get that markdown title. There we go. So yeah, let's add a geom point as well.
Awesome.
Uh, Maybe we should make those blue.
Yeah.
So here's something I like to do when I make plots like this. I don't know how good a practice it is, but those dots and the points to me somehow like blend in. So one thing we could do is we could change the shape to be, what is it, open circle or something like that. Maybe it's
Oh,
circle
yes.
open. Maybe it's circle open. So we could do
Um,
this, but then you can see the line through it, which I don't really like. So a trick that I like is to actually keep the filled in points, but then make another point on top of it that's white.
oh, wow. Yeah.
These are being layered on, so it's almost like with a paintbrush you can go in, but
Yeah.
make the size of that a little smaller. So now you get something like this. Which to me looks like now I can see the points a little bit better. And we can bring those values back into the mix as well. The text.
Yeah.
We can cheat off of the code we developed before for the labels. Maybe we don't need them to be bold this time.
And maybe we
Let's
want to
get rid
nudge
of these
along the Y.
adjustments. Yeah, let's see. So by default, they're like this. Where do we want to move them? Down, left, up?
I
Um,
think up would be better because when I look at that 8 million in 2018, like if we move it down, it's still going to be obscured by a lot.
right.
So
Yeah, you're right. So, nudge Y.
look at that. Yeah.
Okay, good. So now we
And
have these. Some of them are still on top of the lines. What if we move
yeah.
them over this way too? Maybe a little bit of a
Oh,
nudge
yeah.
X. Maybe minus 0.5.
Hmm.
Let's try this. Let's get rid of the Y. I think this
Okay.
works
Yeah.
somewhat. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, I don't know. We could like play with this forever. But I think that at least we can. Oh, but look, we have lost this again where there was this
Yes.
7.9. So let's bring this trick back into the mix. This way the geoms are not clipped. Okay. So now we have
Awesome.
things. We can add the labels or not. Maybe we don't necessarily need them, but like right now, the X and Y labels don't look very nice. I
Yeah.
would say that the X is obvious that they're
Yeah.
years, but maybe for the Y, we may want to say UK viewers in millions, something like this. Maybe
Okay.
not like, oh, I'm missing a comma. There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we have this.
Yeah. I don't know if we need access like on the y-axis, like for those 6, 7, 8, if we're going to specify the as well by each point. But I think that's definitely a
Oh, you
choice
like
of,
say
yeah.
that there are millions? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah. Or even just having any, like other than the title, just those axis labels on the y-axis if we're going to label each point individually.
Um, do you want to get rid of the numbers 6, 7, and 8? Is that what you're saying?
I
Or do we want to
I
add
think
something to
so.
them? Yeah, let's try
I
that. We
we
can
could add.
remove those. So that would be axis text, I think. Axis text Y. I never know. Is it axis title or axis text? There we go. Does that
Yeah,
look good?
yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
think so. If we're going to specify it on the points, yeah, cool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this is looking good. I think that we're able
Yeah.
to get, a little bit better. So, like, kind of taking a look at this visualization versus this visualization, the idea of like there is a fall in viewership, except this like big bump here is looking a lot more obvious to me. So let's do one last thing. I think maybe we'll have just enough time for our task 3. So as I
Perfect.
said, there is across some of the seasons, the doctors change. So I found this on Wikipedia where, so this show was, a show back in the, okay, maybe later Wikipedia, back in the 60s all the way to 80s. And then the data that we have is from the revived era. So these are the seasons that we have data for. And there have been different doctors. So 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. And so we're at the current 13th doctor right now. So what I did is I clicked on these and took a look to see who the doctors are. So you can kind of see from here. So the 9th doctor was this person. And then the 10th doctor, I think this is the only David Tennant. This is the only season I watched Doctor
Mhm.
Who, I think. And then currently we have actually a woman doctor. The
Mhm.
13th doctor is Jodie Whittaker. So what I did is I created a table with the season number, the doctor number from Wikipedia, and then their names. Okay. So I was thinking, can we maybe add this doctor information to this plot that we have just to see how viewership has changed between doctors? How might we do that? So we now have this one data frame that's doctors, and then we have another data frame that is episodes, and there's a data frame that we did make, which is the
Yes.
series viewership data frame. So that's
Mhm.
probably the one we want to. So we know the year and the mean UK viewers for our series viewership. The series viewership was made off of the episodes data frame, and then we have this doctor's data frame. How might we bring all of this information together?
We got a suggestion in the chat to use color coded points.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that to me says we got to grab the doctors' names into that series viewership data frame, right?
Mhm.
Somehow we need to
Yes.
match them. The thing is, the doctors, in order to match the doctor name, I need the season number, which is in the
Mhm.
episodes data frame, but we didn't carry it through here. So how about we go and bring that back in first? So let's
Sounds
scroll up.
good.
And when we created the series viewership, we ended up with, because we grouped by year and then calculated the mean UK viewers. And then when you do that, you lose all the other variables, right? Your summary table
Mhm.
just becomes year and the new variable you calculated. How about we say keep the season number as well?
Mhm.
So let's do this. And let me take a look first to see. So we do have the
Yeah.
season number, year, and mean UK viewers. Except Summarize was doing this thing where it tells me, hey, I am still a group data frame, so let's drop that. So that doesn't do the whining. Okay, so my series viewership data frame is now season number, year, and mean UK viewers. And my doctor's data frame is now season number, doctor no, and doctor name. So now
Perfect.
we have this. Okay. And we have a couple suggestions for different color points or different color lines. So how about we start building that up and then we can try both and see what we want.
Awesome. Yeah, so
Let's copy all of this code. What do you say?
yeah,
Because we're going to
sounds
add
good.
basically one more aesthetic element to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Insert a code chunk. And we'll call this series viewership improved with doctor. Sometimes these labels become so long. And so x-axis is year, y-axis is UK viewers, and we want to maybe do color by doctor name, ultimately is what we want. But in order to be able to do that, I need a data frame that has all of this information.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do we want to do to bring them together?
I would do a left join. So by
Okay.
left, that means if we're going to have series viewership, we're going to keep everything from there because we want to keep all the seasons. And then you essentially match it with that, like use the key of that season to match it with the season's information that we have about the doctors. And then it'll combine it all together.
All right. That's great. All right. So now we have all of this. Okay. Like we kind of have the info we need now, right? We can do better in terms of the visuals, but we kind of have what we need. What are some improvements you might want to make to this plot?
Let's see. Definitely formatting the legend, I think. So, I mean, yeah, so like giving it a title, like doctor name.
Yeah, let's do that first. So this should be doctor maybe. So that's that. It's bugging me that it's taking up so much space, to be honest.
Yeah.
So how about we move it into this empty area we have here?
Oh, good idea. Yeah. And
I mean, that's the sort of thing like you can only figure out once you see the plot, right? But we can say legend position. So the way we define this is think about it as like 0 to 1 for the X, 0 to 1 for the Y. So let's see, what if I do it at 0.1 for both of them? It's too low. Move it up a bit, 0.2, 0.3, and then move it over a bit, 0.2. So like that's looking okay,
good.
maybe.
Yeah.
So right now that color is getting so our points aren't colored by those. Only the text is colored. Do we want the points colored? Yeah, I think so. How about we remove this? What does that look like if I do that? And then maybe we just like change the line color to be something a bit more muted. More muted, gray 80. Okay.
Yeah.
So that gives us something. We can maybe get rid of these white points now. And then right now, both the text and the points are using the same color, which is good. But we probably don't need the letters here. So for the geom text, I'm going to add show legend false.
There we
Okay.
go. That's a lot cleaner. Yeah.
Now, a few accessibility things we may think about. We now have color, but we know that
Mhm.
this is not a very colorblind friendly color plate, maybe. It's the default
Yeah.
one. So you want to use maybe that Okabe Ito color
Oh,
scale.
yes.
What is it? That's in the color blinder package.
Yes. Yeah.
And how do we do that? Where do we do that now?
That would be scale color Okabe
Right.
Ito, I believe is.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not one of the
There we
ones where you would
go.
have to say discrete. Yeah. Cool.
Right. And then
Yeah.
now we have color indicating something, but let's add shape as well. Just so it's like some sort of double encoding. So it's both color and shape. Now it's split our legend into two because of here. I think we have to give them the same name so it knows to put them back together. So that's
Exactly.
looking
Yeah.
better. And then that yellow is like super difficult to see, right? So how about we darken this color scale a little bit? Maybe that's better.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't like those shapes though.
Um,
Like the plus and the other one. Let's see. Ooh, a good point in the
point. Yeah.
comments. The order of the legend doesn't match the order the dots appear. Very good point and really frustrating situation.
Yeah.
Um, the legend
Do
is,
we
of course, in our favorite order, alphabetical. What do we want to do?
do we want to go back to that triple we made and make it a factor so we can specify that don't just assume this will be alphabetical, like this is the actual order we want them in.
Right. Yeah, and what order do we want them in? So we could manually give the order, but really in this join data frame, right over here, once
Yeah.
we do the join, the order we want them in is actually governed by something like season number, right?
Right.
So how about we try this for the doctor name? So let's mutate doctor name to be ordered by season number. Would that work? Yeah. So
Yeah.
now we actually have them in the same order. And then these pluses are like really hard to see, I think. So we may want to grab some other shapes. Whenever I need more shapes, I just like going to the ggplot2 webpage and then find this aesthetic specifications article and we'll just do a control F for shape. So which of these shapes might we want? Like these ones look better, right? The filled in ones.
Yeah.
So
And it's perfect to
15,
have
16, 17, 18, and 19. So let's try that 15 to 19.
yeah.
So that would be a scale shape manual where the values are 15 to 19. Oh, forgot
And
a
plus.
plus. Okay. But that gives me two circles that are so hard to tell apart.
Yeah. Yeah, that size, I don't know. And especially because they're the two blue ones, just happen to be.
Yeah. All right, let's make one of them 8. I don't know.
Yes.
So let's do 8 and then 15 to 18. I made the first one 8 because there's only one of them. That
True.
doctor only played one season. What's your problem?
Ooh, what's
Identical
our
units is object is not a unit. Maybe does it not like? I don't know what the issue is. Okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
well, we have some stuff that we have managed to do. We may want to do something like make these a little bit bigger, or no, something like
Yeah, that
this. Now, one of the things that we may want to do at this point, I think we're going to run out of time before we do our task 4, which is perfectly fine. But let's go ahead and knit this document real quick. I am going to
yeah,
say preview and viewer pane so we can see it side by side, because some of those adjustments we made when we knit might, you know, move around a little bit depending on the size of the image and stuff. So I want to make sure they look good in our final
yeah,
document.
yeah. Especially with like whenever nudge and HJust, you always have to make sure it
Right,
looks how you want your output. Like here, I remember thinking the text was way bigger in the viewer pane, but now that it's bigger, it's
right.
smaller than the bars. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
All right, so that's looking okay. Maybe this is looking okay. Let's take a look at this. Maybe this is looking okay too. So one
yeah.
last thing that we may want to do before we wrap up this, our markdown document is, let's go back to our document outline. So we did a recreation and we created this. How about we
Mhm.
write some alt text for this visualization? So
Nice.
just so we can kind of improve the accessibility of it further. And also, I personally find it useful to write these just to make sure that I also know what I made in a way, even if I'm like working in a meeting where I don't need to write a caption. So, what would be a reasonable, maybe alt text here? Something like, we like to say what sort of plot it is, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
bar
So
plot
plot,
of,
uh, mean Doctor Who mean
mhm.
viewership uh, between 2005 and 2020. Um,
And then maybe something
and
about the
then
trend. So, maybe we can
uh,
say something like, in 2005, average viewership was 5 point, no, 7.9 million. And it decreased steadily to 5.4 million in 2020, except then we can mention the exception.
hmm, yep.
Except for bumps up to 8 million in which years? 2008,
8 and then 18.
2018. Okay. So, um,
Yeah.
and then let's copy this and then let's take a look at the next plot we made. So if I, um, so this time this is not a bar plot. This is a line plot, or time
Yeah.
series plot.
I was gonna say I wasn't
Time
sure if time series
series.
would be.
It's a time series line plot of mean UK viewership for Doctor Who. And then the rest of it is similar. Um, like
Yeah.
here, for example, we can see better the really sharp decrease between
Yeah.
2014 and 2015. And then we may want to copy this one more time. But here we may mention that, right? Particular sharp decrease observed between 2014 and 2015. And then here we have the one with the doctors. And I think in this case, we have lots of information that is actually hidden, in the, sorry, lots of information that's actually hidden in the visualization.
Hmm.
So we are going to want to add that information in. So we have this. Plot also indicates the doctor,
Yeah.
the artist that played the doctor in each season. And so now we want to write this sentence for like season 1 was
Yeah.
Christopher Eccleston, so on and so forth. Let's cheat. That's too much writing. So what if we say, okay, we want to create a new column. I'll just call it text. That is paste season, and then it'll be season number, and then is played by, and then this would be, oops.
Awesome.
And then I wonder if we can do, what happens if we do this? Okay. I mean, I'm not sure that this is like great, but we can
Yeah.
maybe manipulate this text just a little bit in the few minutes that we have left. So here is how I would do this. I am going to open like an empty text file here. I'm going to paste this. I'm going to get rid of all of this. Let's go to the very end. Season 2 to 4 is played by David Tennant, right?
Hmm.
Seasons
Yeah.
5 to, what is it, 7? I guess I should say R. I'm sure there was a better way of doing this, but seasons 8 to 10. And then seasons 11 and 12 are. Okay, so now we can do this and bring this back into our alt text. So we have cheated a little bit. I guess I had to still do a little bit of manual intervention. But it was still easier than writing people's names, I'd say.
Definitely.
Okay. So now we can knit this document one more time and then see how things look as we wrap up.
Yeah, this comment in the chat to use a geom rect in the background for the different doctors, that's definitely a really great idea. And that's what I'd want to do if we had more
Right.
time.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We could have kind of colored them in. Well, maybe that's a good segue into kind of wrapping things up a little bit here. If you would like to keep playing along with this data set and maybe implement some of the suggestions in the chat, or if you have suggestions of your own, or if you feel like tackling the last task, which was about episode descriptions for which you're going to need the IMDb data set. If you go back to the homepage for the project, you'll be able to either get a link to the RStudio Cloud project or see the source code on GitHub. And what I will do after this, after we wrap things up here, is push the code that we developed into the GitHub repository and place it in the RStudio Cloud project as well, so you can take a look at it and you can keep playing with it yourself. And if you do actually create something and you want to share it with us, maybe on Twitter, we would appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's it for this. Did you have anything else you
Awesome.
wanted to add, Evan?
Oh no, yeah, this is just really great. Yeah, to see everything come together like that, and it was really cool. So yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me as a guest host.
Well, thank you for joining as a guest host. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break, even though we just started for the holidays, but we'll be back on January 11 with another guest host, Holly Quee. And we don't know what the topic is going to be yet. So, follow on Twitter or something to figure out closer to date what we're going to be working on that day. And thank you so much for joining.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks.